Get ready for success. Leadership Strategies for Women is a show dedicated to providing practical and valuable strategies for emerging women leaders of today. It's your time to get inspired, motivated, and challenged to achieve your vision for success. And now, here's leadership speaker and coach, Ellie Nieves.
This is the Leadership Strategies for Women podcast, and I'm your host, Ellie Nieves. I'm the founder and president of Leadership Strategies for Women, where I develop seminars and webinars to help high-achieving women show up, speak up, and step up in their careers. To learn more, please visit my website at leadershipstrategiesforwomen.com, or you can follow the Leadership Strategies for Women page on Facebook. Our guest is Jill Lynch Cruz of JLC Consulting. Jill empowers lawyers and business professionals to unleash their full potential to achieve higher levels of career success and satisfaction. As a preeminent scholar and thought leader on the key barriers and critical success factors for Latina lawyers, Jill has published over a dozen academic, professional, and law review articles and book chapters on this topic. Jill has over 20 years of experience in human resource management, including as an HR executive for several AmLaw 100 DC-based law firms. She's a certified professional coach, global career development facilitator, and senior professional in human resources. Jill holds a PhD in organization and management from Capella University and MS in human resource management from the University of Maryland, as well as a Bachelor of Science degree in psychology from the University of Maryland. Jill, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Ellie. I really appreciate you inviting me to join you on your podcast this morning.
So, Jill, I shared a lot of information about you, but we would love to get to know you a little bit more on the personal level. Is there anything you can share about yourself?
Yeah, well, thank you for that great introduction. It's a really humbling to hear someone else introduce you sometimes. But just on a personal level, I live in San Antonio here now with my husband, A.B., and our two children, Ben, who's almost 15, and Anna, who's 12. So I have teenagers and almost teenagers in the house, so you can imagine that's a lot of fun. I really, for the majority of my life, I lived in Maryland and also attended school there, as you noted. And our family our lives really currently revolve around our kids. Their activities when I'm not an Uber driver. We're involved in their school, our community, and our church. And we just really enjoy spending time as a family doing things with our extended family here in San Antonio. And, in terms of hobbies, really just one of my favorite things is reading. I'm always interested in hearing about books that people are reading, especially if they have to do with women in empowerment. And I'm a little bit of an Audible geek right now, really listening to Brené Brown's work on power and vulnerability, daring to lead, and so forth. So if you have any great suggestions, I'm always open to that.
Fabulous. So when and why did you launch your consulting firm?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. And it was really largely unplanned. I'd say that the first half of my career, as you indicated, was in law firm human resources, and I had a very successful career, both as a law firm recruiter and ultimately rose to the level of chief human resources officer for a large DC law firm. But about 4 years into that role, I got married, and my husband was recruited for a great opportunity to be the GC of the Scripps Networks, which is a Fortune 1000 media company, and you may know it as the parent company of one of my favorite shows, HGTV and the Food Network. And while it was a wonderful opportunity for us, it was also required us to move to Cincinnati, Ohio. And I was pregnant with my first child, Ben, at the time. So you can pretty much do the math on what my opportunities for finding a similar position there in Cincinnati. And that was really a catalyst in and a great opportunity for me, because what was glaring to me, and really is still now, is the lack of women in leadership roles in the legal profession. And even though I'm not an attorney, it was something that really trickled to even the executive levels in human resources. And I saw this as a bit of a turning point for me, and I think that's really where I launched my career. So in about 2009, my company, JLC Consulting, was launched. And I initially leveraged my background in law firm human resources management to help organizations improve their gender diversity. But I found myself, quite frankly, very frustrated by the lip service paid to D&I efforts, and without a real willingness to make real and sustained change. And many organizations, as you know, I know you're an attorney and probably can appreciate this, law firms in particular are very resistant to change, and there really hasn't been much progress made in the cultures, attitudes, and structures that hold women and minorities back. So, for me, instead of focusing all my energy influencing change at the organizational level, which is really where I started, I really became an executive coach so I could help empower the women to help themselves. And I can honestly tell you that I get an incredible sense of fulfillment, just seeing a client transformation process unfold. And, notwithstanding all the barriers that they face, how they begin to really see and take control of their lives and career.
That's wonderful, Jill, and I can really relate to that as well, because I think that's what also got me into the coaching business, right? Knowing that you can work with someone and you could see the market improvement as they make transformations in their own journey. And even though we've got these institutional issues that still need to be addressed, there's still a role that we play as individuals within these institutions as change makers, right? Starting first with ourselves and then hoping that not only will that change influence the work that we do, but it will also break barriers for those that come behind us.
Yeah, absolutely. It really is about recognizing what you have control over and having the courage and the power and the skill, for that matter, to make the changes that you want in your life and your career.
Yes. So what are some of the challenges that you faced personally as you work to achieve your own goals?
Yes. Yeah. Well, thanks, Ellie. I think there were definitely a lot of challenges in those early years, but I'd like to really focus on those starting my business. And first I should tell you that during those early years, I was not only raising 2 children under the age of 4, living in a new city living in a new city without family support, but I was also working on my PhD at the time. I laugh when I think back about it. But to complicate matters even further, my husband was really at the height of his career, and he was traveling 80% of the time for not only his role as a GC of a Fortune 1000 company, but just, to add chaos to our lives, he had also been promoted to a Rear Admiral in the U.S. Navy Reserves. So, and he was going to his he was working out of Florida, so he was traveling there as well. So needless to say, I was there in a city without my family, no support systems, raising kids, going to school, trying to get my business off the ground in a new city. And I honestly can't tell you how it all worked out, but it did. And, I do have to be transparent and say, it wasn't always easy, and my career path was nonlinear, not planned, and it was messy. And, it was a challenge for me because at the time, and I think a lot of women, have this mindset, is that we believe that in order to be successful in our career, we have to do it all, do it well, with a smile on our face, have no gaps. And for me, this just wasn't the case. I knew that during that time my family needed me, and I would need to take a step back from my full career for at least a short period of time. And the one thing that I would say, though, and I want to offer this also for any of your listeners who might be either in this situation or considering this situation, is I always kept my hand in my career, and I always looked for opportunities where I could learn and grow, even if it was as a volunteer or doing pro bono work. And as a result of this experience, I really feel that I understand and enjoy working with women who have had career breaks or have had a non-linear career path.
That's wonderful. And the way you say a career break, right, that's it's actually becoming trendy now to take a career break. There was a time, I'm sure, when you and I were coming up where we always felt like we needed to make an excuse for the career break.
Oh,
but
absolutely.
now it seems like it's a trend to actually take a career break and reassess where you are in life and then come back, and employers are actually valuing that. But thank you for also just being transparent, because that's just the reality, especially when you are trying to achieve something higher for yourself and your family, that there are those moments in your life and in your career where it gets really bumpy and it's not a straight path, and you're struggling to just keep it all afloat, but somehow through perseverance and dedication, it does eventually come to pass. So thank you for not only your transparency, but for also being an example for many of us who are also trying to follow in the same path.
Thank you. And I think it's also helped me identify where my values are around my career. And I can tell you because of that break, I'm in a much better, much happier, more fulfilled path had I not taken a break. So
nice. So you focused much of your work on Latina lawyers. You mentioned this to us earlier. What are some of the unique challenges that Latina lawyers face?
Well, wow, yeah. I could probably take up the rest of this podcast talking about it. But yeah, I mean, it's true. There are quite a few. And, a little over 10, just to give by way of background, a little over 10 years ago, I was part of a large research project with the Hispanic National Bar Association, Latina Commission, that was really focused on the status of Latina attorneys across the legal sectors, all legal sectors in the U.S. And it was really to identify, or really to document their status and to better understand some of the challenges that they uniquely face, because back then, 10 years ago, and even now, they appear to be one of the most underrepresented group of attorneys across the legal profession, especially when you look at their current and increasing presence in this country. And so our research really found, just to kind of sum it up, it really found that Latinas encounter what we called a multi-layered glass ceiling, based on their multiple and intersecting identities as racially and ethnically diverse women. And this included, gender-biased discrimination, stereotyping that's faced by other women and women of color in the profession. But, for example, there was a unique form of cultural sexism that they experienced at the hands of others. And in particular, other Latinos, that they were somehow violating cultural norms by pursuing non-traditional roles for women in their culture. And so, we also see examples of them being treated as both outsiders or as tokens in their workplaces. Many recounted examples how they were often misidentified as someone other than the attorney, such as, the translator, court reporter, or even the defendant. Comments such as, the interpreter's here, we're just waiting on the attorney. And, over time, this just works to really devalue their qualifications and professional legitimacy. And so they often felt that they had to work hard to try to avoid being misidentified as someone other than the attorney. And for many, it required them to navigate dual identities, so that they had to be one person at work, one person at home, and many of them had to go to great lengths to try to blend in with majority attorneys or avoid being targeted or pigeonholed or tokenized. And so one of the common sayings was that if you could pass, as a Latina, you could pass as white, your experience would be considerably better. And